Watch to the very end. This first one has to do with social media. You see our heads down generation. Yeah, I'm talking about millennials, the generation after, but it's not, you know, my mom is even one who's super connected to social media. So this is spanning across generations. What are teenagers saying this morning? At least a group of them.
Yes, so now teens are basically saying that they get really bad anxiety from social media.
Admitting.
Which isn't a surprise to me, because I feel like the pressures of social media are so much so that it doesn't surprise me that kids feeling anxious when you have to have the most perfect picture and share the compliments you get on all these other apps we were talking about. So anyways, Good Morning America and ABC News did a story, and they interviewed a group of teenage girls. In a moment, we're gonna play you some of what they were saying about social media and how it impacts them. But what a doctor has already said is that one of the hallmarks of adolescence is to make mistakes. Part of adolescence is figuring out who you are.
True.
Sometimes you make choices that aren't so great, but those choices are an opportunity for growth. What she's saying is the challenge with social media is that it doesn't give a young person freedom to make mistakes without being defined by them. She says that she believes social media plays a huge role in anxiety of teens, and 79% of parents who are surveyed by the American Psychological Association said that their teens do use social media. 69% of those parents of teen girls said they're worried about the influence of social media on their kids' health. Only 39% of those parents of boys said they were worried about their boys' health. So this is specifically catered toward younger girls in general when we're talking about this story. So let's go ahead and play for you what these young women were saying. They didn't realize their parents were listening.
This was on Good Morning America?
What they were saying, yep.
Okay.
A lot of criticism towards me on social media, but I choose not to pay attention to it.
Cyberbullying translates into real life, and then you have people that are taunting you while you're right there.
And if somebody says, I don't like the way you look?
I think I look great, so who cares what they say? But then it's like, wait, somebody just said that to me, like, are you kidding me?
Like, I don't hate my body, but I always feel that there's room for improvement all the time.
Oh, wow. So these parents obviously see one mom wiping her face, because it's really hard to hear that. That's something that you give your kids, right? I mean, I'm sure these kids don't pay for their phones, maybe some do, but you are enabling this to happen. I'm sure that's the feeling of a parent, right?
Or maybe not even enabling, but as a role model in your kid's life, you want to know that the things that you're telling them or instilling them is enough, and then to hear real time that me telling you that you're beautiful isn't enough. Someone else telling you that you may not be as attractive as I like affects you. And that's not just a kid problem, that's adults. Everyone has insecurities from time to time, but as an older person, you understand that people are going to say things just to be hurtful, or it really doesn't matter what people's opinions are of you. But when you're 14, you think everything that everybody has to say matters at all times.
And the other part to this is the psychologist who was interviewed said it's not only stressful when you're on social media, because you feel like you have to, show yourself in this light that is of perfect roles in everything you do. You want to look good with your makeup, you want to look good with the way you dress, you want to be hanging out with the coolest people, you want to be involved in the cool things, activities that you can show you're at. She says there's also the stress of not being on it. When you don't have your phone.
FOMO.
That FOMO, that feeling of missing out.
Fear of missing out.
Yes, fear of missing out. And maybe, for some of these teens, this specifically was a group of 15 to 17-year-olds who you saw in that story, but for a lot of the teenagers now, they have really associated happiness with how they are perceived on social media. And so like you said, when your mom tells you you're beautiful, yeah, but it's just my mom. What do all these other strangers on social media really think? And that's now defined how they view themselves. It's just very sad.
It's sad. I was surprised. It's the first time I'm listening to those interviews. I was surprised by the strength. One of the girls saying, I know, I can't believe that happened. I know I'm pretty. I don't need that. But the fact that they're still talking about it, it impacts them on some level. You can say all day long, it's not right. They're being bullies. It is cyberbullying. But at the end of the day, they are being impacted to the point where they're on GMA talking about it.
Right.
And this is what's interesting, is that Facebook just this month has acquired this application. So it's something you can download on the phone, nothing that we're interested in, but this generation of teens probably is. And I've seen some of my teenage cousins use this app. It's called TBH, an acronym for To Be Honest. All the kids are saying it, right? Like TBH, I love that shirt. To be honest, it's just a short term for it, right? The application, again, called TBH, it is a platform where teens can anonymously compliment other teens. So, from my understanding, you can't say anything bad to one another. So it's an application of positivity, but it's sort of this obsession too with needing to be told that you look pretty, that your lipstick is nice today, that you're a great friend. I've seen my cousins screenshot conversations that they've had back and forth with this anonymous person about how good, how pretty, how amazing of a person they are. And to me, that's shocking, because I'm like, wait, why are you sharing a conversation about compliments? While that's great, and I'm glad it's not a conversation where you're bullying each other, it's sad to me that you need that, you need that self-worth to come from someone else anonymously, not even a friend who you care
Trust
about.
their opinion. Yeah.
But the sad thing is, it's kind of always been that way. Think about middle school. There's some people were, super confident in middle school, but middle school across the board seems to be just a super awkward
times
section, like amount of time where you do feel like you want some type of gratification from other people, and you do want that. So it's kind of always been that way. The difference is now it's technology, and it's people you don't even know being able to connect and reach out to you. And then now we compared ourselves to different types of people. Remember back in the day, Aaliyah was who we looked up to. Aaliyah had the baggy jeans on, the jersey, sports bra, hair down, tomboy look. Now the people you look up to are a little more on the sexy side.
Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner's, the Kim Kardashians, the Rihanna's. So while we were coming into it feeling the same level of insecurity, we weren't as body conscious
and exposed
to as you are
perfection
now. We weren't in that same demo. We had Brandy and
Monica
and Shakira and Christina Aguilera. It was Britney Spears was probably the sexiest person, and she wasn't even super sexy until she got older.
Yeah.
So now it's just a different playing field.
And I do want to go over, if you're a parent listening to this and you go, okay, so what do I do? If social media is causing my kids anxiety, how do I recognize it? What do I do? Right? So the psychologist that ABC News interviewed did say, if you notice your child constantly on their phone, that could be a sign, which I think all students and young kids are most of the time. But if they are tuning out other conversations, it could be a sign that they are so addicted to their phones because they're scared they're going to miss something. On the other hand, they also mentioned that if you find your child not using their phone again at all, maybe they were at one point and now they put it down, maybe it's because they're finding that it's too hurtful to be on it. So this psychologist suggests asking your kids questions beyond the yes or no. Not, hey, are you being cyberbullied? Your kid can easily say no, end of discussion. But instead, ask them questions that are more thought-provoking. And she says, too, if you're helping to pay for your kid's phone and they're not yet 18, it's within your rights as a parent to look through their phone and to ask to be able to see those things. And you might feel like that's a trust barrier you don't want to breach with your child, but from a expert standpoint, you should feel like you're within your boundaries to do that, to make sure that you can monitor things, because a lot of times we know these teens aren't going to go reaching to their parents for help when they do feel these sorts of anxiety moments. But know that it is happening, especially after hearing what these young girls were saying.
Yeah, and sometimes it's kind of obvious when you really pay attention to kids. I always say I have a niece, but you could tell when she would start to go through that insecure phase or those insecure moments, because her behavior would change in regards to her wanting to dress a certain way all of a sudden. It was more like, well, this is pretty and
more promiscuous,
a little more promiscuous, or shirts a little lower cut. Then on social media, just posting things like, because TBH used to be out where kids would just post a question and a picture of themselves, and they'll say TBH, and then their friends would just leave it in the Instagram comments. So
it started as
whatever they wanted.
Yep, whatever they wanted. So just starting to leave a little pictures and leave little comments where you can tell that they were searching for something, just looking for some type of attention or some reassurance from other people. So just, you got to be in kids, their social media pages. Some parents are hands off and they're like, well, I don't really understand these apps and these platforms. You need to get to know it, and you need to familiarize yourself with it.
I want to share a viewer comment with you both, if you can. And Carolyn Scott Montalvo, I believe is how you pronounce it. Thank you for sharing your comment. She says, social media and children do not go together. My son is 14 and he does suffer from anxiety and depression due to bullying at school and on social media. So my question to you is, how did you first discover that? How did you know that he was battling anxiety and depression? Was it something that he came to you with, or was it something that you learned through behavior, just that mom's instinct and that, you know, being intuitive and knowing your child? But I'm curious to know, for the parents who have experiences with their kids, what the signs were and how they went about approaching that situation. So share.
So share, please. I'm reading more on TBH because I remember there was a different app before TBH.
Saraha. It was something called Saraha.
So
okay.
This is okay. So according to the app's description in the Apple App Store, 5 million people have already downloaded TBH in just the past few months, and the app reportedly has 2.5 million daily active viewers. And they said for Facebook, TBH offers another way to attract more young users. So it's a demo thing. WhatsApp, where you can make international phone calls, that attracts one demo, right? Then you have Instagram, which is another demo, Facebook, another demo, and now they're saying, okay, how do we get those really young people? And it looks like with TBH, that's one way. So it says it offers another way to attract more young users, especially as the social network's own demographic for its namesake service continues to skew older, talking, of course, about Facebook in itself. So I'm glad that Facebook is attaching themselves to an app that is full of positive messages, but again, there's that concern factor of needing the gratification.
Yeah, think about it. To target a younger demo, let's create an app that focuses on self-esteem. Like, you know what I mean?
Do you think Facebook should focus on something
that? Not even, I think they should. I think what they're doing is okay, but the idea and the concept to say, if you want a successful app for kids to get into, and you gotta, that's their self-esteem. Low self-esteem, it gives them positive reinforcement because this is going to really be a thing, because a lot of kids have low self-esteem issues or they're insecure. So if we create an app focused on that.
Well, they just bought the app. It's a way to combat it, I think.
Sure, but I think what's ironic is that a lot of these self-esteem issues probably derive from things like MySpace and Facebook. You know, that's really,
So
those were the big social media players for a long time.
But you can't blame social network, because it's always been around before social media. The idea of needing self-gratification,
but not instantly, though.
Exactly, and what a parent is actually saying too. Lisa Hinson said the only difference today is that it doesn't only happen in person; it also happens on social media.
It's double whammy.
She says we need to raise our kids to be confident, independent, realistic, and logical, and encourage mental toughness and ensure their success is in their life goals, not on their phone.
But they also need to be socially savvy, or else you're not going to get the job that you want. Let's just be a realist here. You know, if you take away the social media from the kids altogether, they're going to be out there in 2020 not knowing how to operate, not knowing how these social networks work. This is, I mean, it's networking. It's the real world.
That's true, but if you also on your Instagram or your social media sites with your whole booty out, you're not going to get that job anyway.
True.
Like, you're not going to get the job anyway. So there has to be some type of balance to say, yes, be on your apps and keep up and do what your friends are doing, but just understand that who you are visually sometimes is not necessarily who you are on the inside. Don't lead in with the outward. Lead in with the inside.
Yeah, I like that. JD Merrick Smith also had another good comment. So thank you all. You're all sharing really good perspectives. JD says the easiest way to deal with your teen's anxiety is to have a conversation with them. I do it. It's uncomfortable at first for all involved. Then it gets easier. Parents need to get off their phones and act like parents, not friends, and talk to their children. I know we've talked about that before too, where a lot of parents these days are battling that whole, I want to have the trusting relationship with you, and I want to act more like a friend on one level so that you can talk to me about things and feel comfortable, but also parent at the same time. None of us are yet parents, but I'm sure I've had conversations with parents who have said it's a tough act to be able to balance. So,
and parents who have already you never stop parenting, but who the kids are adults now, like my mom I am so glad that I didn't have to raise you guys in the world of social media. She does not envy that, and she worries for me and for Caesar one day, because how are you going to monitor these potentially, hopefully, amazing kids, but one thing that goes wrong on social media could affect their entire life, and that's terrifying, because these are kids growing up into adults, right? And they're just trying to figure their way and their life out, and it's really tough when it's on full display. Yeah. Because again, one wrong picture, one wrong anything, you get tormented. Okay.